How many ghosts are here?
Well, 4 that I know of.
Some of the other spirits we've heard here, there was a blind man who used to be the piano player. He was pushed down these stairs. His apparition has been seen at the bottom of the stairs.
The other weird thing is this little ghost hunter sticker. Now this was originally on my case. Waking up this morning, it is stuck on the wall and off my case, which is very weird because it was epoxied onto the case. So I don't know how it came off. Get back, anything back the other way?
The Cripple Creek gold strike took place in 1891, a year which also marked the beginning of the Palace Hotel. Among the people trying to strike it rich was Joseph P. Wolfe. He built a hotel, the third in Cripple Creek, which was named the Joseph P. Wolfe Hotel. It opened in January 1892, and in May was sold to Chauncey Nichols and christened to the Palace. Under the management of Nichols, the hotel prospered and was a stopping place for the stage 3 times daily. Those arriving on the stage were ushered into a spacious hotel rotunda and found the appointments luxurious according to the 1894 City Directory of the Cripple Creek Mining District. The town prospered and grew to 35,000 by 1896. Disaster struck on April 4th when one of the girls on Myers Avenue had a fight with her boyfriend and turned over a lamp she was using to heat her curling iron. Half of the town was destroyed that day. 5 days later, the fire cry rang out again. One of the cooks in a cafe on Myers Avenue had turned over a huge pot of grease. The boilers in the Palace Hotel were dynamited in an effort to stop the fire. By the end of the day, the entire 35,000 citizens of Cripple Creek were homeless. The town and the palace were built back immediately, this time with brick. Around 1900, Dr. John Chambers and his wife Catherine bought the hotel. Dr. Chambers ran the pharmacy, while his wife, nicknamed Miss Kitty, took really good care of their guests, loving the job of providing hospitality, and adding nice touches like turning down the beds for their guests. When Miss Kitty died in 1908 in room number 3 of the hotel, she evidently wasn't ready to leave. As the stories have it, she continues to reside there. Over the years, guests have told stories of how she continued to provide great service by making sure that all the candles were lit and sometimes turning down the beds. Others have reported seeing a vision of Miss Kitty dressed in an old-fashioned white nightgown with her long hair down over her shoulders. Yet other people have reported seeing the same figure in the window of room number 3. Miss Kitty is not the only ghost said to lurk within these historic confines, as some suggest other spirits continue to roam the old hotel, including a short fat man, a tall woman, a blind piano player. These reports include feelings of being watched, people who feel a gentle nudge as they walk up and down the stairs, crashing noises and footsteps in the halls when no one is there, and strange abnormalities appearing in photographs.
Well, we finally arrived at the Palace Hotel, doing a paranormal investigation here in room 3, which is this corner room right here. And right now we're about to go and check in, find out what kind of activity is actually going on in the hotel.
Alright everybody, and we have Lisa here. She's going to tell us some stories of the Palace Hotel here and the kind of things that have taken place. Forgive Lisa because she is a little bit camera shy, but that's okay. We'll bear with her. Yeah, so whenever you'd like to get started, Lisa, please feel free.
Okay, there's this lady that works here, and she's worked here for many, many years. And she's a church-going lady. She goes to the Baptist church here in Cripple Creek. And she actually told me this story. And she never believed in ghosts before. But she stayed in a room here, and I couldn't tell you which room it was, but it's, I believe it, no, I'm not sure what room number it was. But anyway, she got snowed in here one night. And, do I look at your eyes or the camera?
Let me look at mine.
Okay, I'm sorry. And, because I'm an eye person.
It's okay.
Alright. And she was watching the snowplow go clean the snow off the road. And while she was telling me the story, she kept reminding me over and over that she knows, she said, I know I locked my door. I know I locked my door. Well, she said I was laying there and I was watching the snowplow go by, and I kept feeling like somebody was watching me. But I know I locked my door. And she said that she'd look over her shoulder, but nobody was there. And then she was laying on her side and watching the snowplow go by, and felt like somebody's looking over her shoulder again, and nobody was there. And I know I locked my door. That's what she'd say over and over. And she laid on her back because the snowplow quit going by, because they keep going by for hours. But they finally quit. And she was laying on her back, and she just had that feeling, real strong feeling like somebody's watching her. And she looked over to her left, to the door, and there was this real big, tall woman, big-breasted woman with a white apron on, white outfit on, like she was a cook or something. And then there was this little bitty, short, fat man standing right next to her, in her room, standing there, just like you and I are right here right now. You couldn't see through them or nothing, they were like real people. And he looked up at her and said, leave her be, she needs her rest. And just disappeared right there. And I thought that was pretty neat. That was really neat, especially from somebody that does not believe in ghosts. And one night my daughter and I were sleeping here, and I worked the graveyard shift for many, many months. Mm-hmm. And she was laying right where you're at, and I was laying next to the piano. And I had my sleeping bag was down, the top of my sleeping bag, and it slowly came up, but it wasn't scared or nothing. It was just the calmest feeling. And that's some stories that I'd heard later after I told everybody what happened. And they said, well, that's typical because Miss Kitty, who's the ghost here, one of the ghosts, likes to cover up people so they don't catch a cold.
Cool.
That's pretty neat.
How many ghosts are here?
Well, 4 that I know of.
Okay, there's Miss Kitty.
There's Miss Kitty, but Bob, who owns this, Bob Lace, and he's Monty's roommate. Monty's worked here for many, many years too. He can tell you some stories too. But Bob actually saw this ghost, and he can tell you about it better than I can.
Okay.
I just heard it, hearsay.
Do you know the names of the other 3 ghosts?
I don't know the names of them. I told you about the blind piano player, blind piano man. I don't know his name either.
After talking with Lisa, we were able to locate the witness that saw the apparition of the blind piano player. We were not able to videotape this interview due to the witness's request to remain anonymous. However, we can say that she was a former employee of the hotel, and her encounter with the ghost occurred one evening while she was working. This is her account. One winter evening, she was walking upstairs from the lobby to the 2nd floor to deliver some sheets to room 9 when she smelled a strong cigar-like fragrance. This alarmed her, as smoking is not permitted in the hotel. As she looked up and to the right, she saw a dark, shadowy figure of a man. The shadow immediately backed away from her and turned into a black mist, which dissolved as it moved back and up towards the ceiling. She quickly looked down both hallways. No one was there. Almost immediately after that, there was a strange sound coming from the lobby downstairs. It sounded like a series of 3 chords that were being played on the piano. Assuming that a customer had entered the lobby, she turned and went back downstairs only to discover that no one was there. A few days later, she was talking with another employee about this experience. Her coworker told her about the blind black man that used to live in the hotel and played the piano in the hotel's bar. He lived on the 2nd floor and supposedly had a love of cigars. She was now certain that she had seen the ghost of this blind black piano player. On the walk back to the hotel, Buck and I discussed the interview. Other than the obvious suggestion planted by her coworker, there was one oddity that suggested that this was not a paranormal event: the cigar smoke. The witness told us that she had to open windows to get the stench of the cigar smoke out of the hotel. This suggests that an actual cigar was involved, as smells that people believe are paranormal in nature do not linger for extended periods of time. So, we developed our first hypothesis. The ghost was actually a person who was illegally smoking in the hotel rather than going outside in the cold. When this person heard someone coming up the stairs, he or she fled to avoid being caught. So, Buck and I are going to test this hypothesis we have. And what we think is going on is this was actually someone up here smoking a cigar illegally. And right over here, if you look, there's this stairway where she came up, and this freaking mannequin that's freaked us out a couple of times. Anyway, coming over here, right about in this area is where we think. Initially thought it was down this hall, but what we think is the person actually bailed upstairs, because all you gotta do is you come up a few steps and you make this turn and you're out of sight now. So we're gonna test this now and see what happens. Go. Hey, that looks pretty good. I think we may have got it. We were able to replicate the shadow in the exact same position where the witness saw it. Duplicate its movements, including its transformation into a black mist that moves back and up into the ceiling. The following morning, we finished gathering the data from the interviews and our observations of the hotel. Now comes the tedious task of researching the history of the location and identifying the origins of the ghost stories. This process took almost 8 months to complete. Here are the findings of our inquiry. Our first goal was to locate the genesis of the ghost story itself, that is, the first recorded version of the accounts. The search started by going through historical archives of the local newspapers and searching for the first story that suggested the Palace Hotel was haunted. From 1900 to 1975, there's nothing indicated that the hotel was haunted, nor anything recorded about ghosts or any kind of paranormal activity. The Colorado Springs Gazette summed up much of the hotel's history in an article published on May 17, 1970. It reads, "The palace had never aspired to the swankiness as the original palace had, and when the camp started slipping, the palace would remain closed for long periods of time. Then someone else would buy it or lease it and start it up again, only to close the doors again after a year or so. This has been going on since the 1920s and still is." In 1971, the same paper runs a photo showing a new owner who, like the others before her, had renovated the hotel and was reopening it. The dinner theater was active again, and the papers are filled with advertisements for these plays and productions. But there are no ghost stories. The hotel would eventually go out of business again and was closed. Bob Lays and his wife Mary bought the boarded-up hotel in 1976. This is where the ghost stories begin. Bob and his wife are the first two recorded witnesses and are the primary source of many of the stories. This presents the first problem. If the Palace Hotel was really haunted by someone who had died in 1908, there should be reports of odd phenomenon occurring since that time. There would be ghost stories from the 20s, the 30s, the 40s, and so on. However, these are non-existent. The oldest written account we could locate was dated back to 1993 and was recorded in McNeil Downer's book, Ghastly Ghost Stories. It states, "Between 1908 and 1918, Dr. John Chambers and his wife Catherine, Kitty for short, owned the Palace Pharmacy. Kitty's name noticeably disappeared from the newspaper accounts about the pharmacy after 1913, leaving the researchers to believe that she had died, very possibly upstairs in the hotel." The 1993 book states a very important fact. Kitty and her husband were involved with the pharmacy, not the hotel. The report that Miss Kitty died in the hotel is based on pure speculation, not facts. Further research into Catherine Chambers does indeed show that she did not die in the hotel. Her grave marker shows that she actually passed away in 1975 in California. However, we already knew this from our interview with Lisa.
But we just recently found out that Miss Kitty is not Miss Kitty. Miss Kitty was buried in California, so it couldn't be her. But the reason they said it was Miss Kitty the chambermaid is because her husband owned this place back in like 1896. And they just assumed it was her. But it wasn't Miss Kitty, but her name is carried on for all these years that we've just stuck with. And we just found out, I guess probably in August, that she was actually buried in California.
Cool.
So we really don't know the name of any of them.
Another noteworthy issue that we noticed is that the witness descriptions of the ghost do not match. Some describe her being in a white nightgown with long brown hair. Others describe an elderly woman in a white dress, or a younger woman wearing a red dress from the 1920s. The witnesses are clearly not observing the same thing. 3 months after our investigation, a film crew visited the hotel to film an episode for the TV show Haunted History. The episode, entitled Haunted Rockies, aired with a completely different version of the story told by the original witness, Bob Lays.
In the pre-dawn hours one morning, Lays believes he may have seen the spirit responsible for lighting the candles. He was at work in the dining room shampooing the carpet when he got a strange feeling that he was being watched.
I'd had that feeling for about 5 minutes, and all of a sudden there was a loud crashing noise coming from the direction of either our lobby or the dinner theater. And I shut off the shampooer and started walking towards the hotel lobby. That was when I saw the lady walking through the lobby. She was wearing a long white nightgown, as corny as that sounds, with ruffles on the sleeves, the same sort of ruffles around the neck. And she wasn't looking at me, she just walked through the room and proceeded towards either the hotel lobby door or the stairs up to the rooms.
The next day, Lays began researching the hotel's history and soon learned that a woman named Mary Hedges had managed the place in the 1920s. Hedges died in one of the rooms, sad and alone.
So what happened to Miss Kitty? Since Miss Kitty had been ruled out as a potential ghost, another figure from the hotel's past had replaced her. However, Mary Hedges can also be ruled out under the same criteria. The 1910 federal census of Cripple Creek shows that Mary was not alone. She had a family, and she worked as a clerk in the courthouse. In the early 20s, she remarried and moved away from Cripple Creek. So, like Miss Kitty, she did not die in the hotel. The elements of the apparition that is supposed to haunt Room 3 are highly indicative of belief bias among the employees. The haunting is well known, and anything that seems out of place or unusual is immediately justified as being the ghost. This is apparent during Buck's interview with the hotel's night manager.
The general manager, Monty, who's on staff right now, said he was up here one evening, and he was looking around, he was checking out a room, I think he was tidying up, and he turned around and he saw a woman with long flowing black hair and a white flowing dress going down the stairs. So he ran around, went down the stairs, and apparently there was a woman downstairs that was wearing a white parka with short dark hair and blue jeans, so he's not completely sure on what he said, what he has seen. He thinks that maybe it was just his imagination, and since there's so many stories of Miss Kitty being with long dark hair and a white dress, that he thinks that, Casper effect.
So now, 3 of the 4 ghosts that are supposedly haunting the Palace Hotel have been explained. The remaining ghost, the short fat man who was seen with the tall woman, also appears to be explainable. From our interview with Lisa, we discovered that this was only encountered by one person who was already in bed and trying to fall asleep. This presents a variety of explainable phenomena that could be mistaken for a paranormal event. Based upon our observations and research, we do not believe that the Palace Hotel is haunted. The reported phenomenon are primarily based on distortions of perception and on emotional exaggerations that are fueled by the belief bias of the witnesses.